What is the truth in the stories we are told? We've been given a story of a world fueled by separation. We've become separate from one another, separate from the earth, ultimately separate from the true nature of ourselves. It's time we learn the truth. It's time you rewrite your story. It's time to realign with who it is that you really are. This is the fifth dimension.
You are infinite and eternal. We are infinite and eternal.
Our natural essence, we could say, is simply being.
We have this awakening coming together as a perfect storm.
We're ready for this. We have the capacity inside. We just got to find that.
All right, everybody, welcome into the Fifth Dimension podcast with me, Evan McDermott. For this solo episode, we're going to be diving in to the latest new deadly outbreak that we need to fear. Tell me if you've heard this one before. I wasn't really planning on doing an episode about this, but sometimes when the circus rolls into town, you just got to go with the flow of it. You got to beat the drums of creation and, see where those, winds of creation take us, right? So we're going to be talking about the monkeypox. And with the monkeypox, we're going to also be talking about the World Health Organization and the treaty. I'm sure many of you have heard by now about the treaty that is going to be put into place over the next few days. If you're listening to this right when it comes out, next few days. If you're listening to this a few weeks afterwards, well, it's probably already happened. If you haven't heard about this, you're not going to be very happy about it. So we'll dive into that. World Economic Forum, they're meeting in Davos. So there's a lot of nefarious, sinister actions taking place right now that I think we need to be mindful about, which is why I'm here with my dandelion tea and honey and recording this for you at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, because, in rural South Dakota, what else is there to do but that? So I'm happy to be here. Grateful for everybody who's tuning on in. This is episode 199. Be sure to subscribe if you have not subscribed to the podcast. Episode 200 is a big one I'm very excited to release. I talked with Paul Check the other day, somebody I very much really respect his work, and such a fantastic conversation. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one next week. I'm going to be referencing in this podcast an article that I just put out on my Substack, mcdermott.substack.com. Now, for all of you folks who like sources, you get on social media, Twitter, Facebook, you post something, people go, source? You got a source, bro? I mean, God, that's my source. Grace Spirit is my source and gives me all my creative inspiration. But I am referencing my Substack article, and within that article has all of the sources that I'm going to mention. So if you're looking for a source for something specific that I say, go to the Substack article. And I'll probably end up saying this again during the podcast, just to remind you. Go to the Substack article. And the Substack article is good too if you just want something quick to share out. Be like, see, Mom, I told you it's all a psyop. It's right here, all the evidence. Or if you're trying to start a Facebook war about the psyop, whatever you want to do, a quick little share. McDermott.substack.com, monkeypox, the next psychological operation. Oh, baby, I got you. So head on over there, and it's free to subscribe if you want to subscribe. I got some good articles that I've been putting out. Did a nice expose on Project Bluebeam, which I did do a podcast about. Probably it was over a year ago at this point. Must have been like middle of last summer. So about a year. Did a expose on that. Got some really interesting ideas that I'm playing with on Substack. So be sure to subscribe. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I got a few, spots available, if you want to say that. Time. I guess I got unlimited time, really. But I got time to work with a few people on tarot consultations, or if it's building custom homeschool curriculums, whatever it may be, head on over to evanmcdermott.org, click the Get Started tab, check out what's happening. I'd love to work with you. Supports the podcast, So that's cool. I'm gonna take a sip of tea here. Dandelions. I would love to pick dandelions from outside and make a tea out of it. But knowing the people of South Dakota, if I did that, I guarantee you I would just get Roundup tea. Straight up Monsanto teas with a little hint of dandelion. So I don't do that. I get the freshest organic dandelion tea from, what's the brand? I don't remember. I got it right here. Traditional Medicinal. How could I forget that? I like Traditional Medicinal. And the words of wisdom from the tea today is a garden is a delight to the eye and a solace for the soul. That's what it says on my tea, ladies and gentlemen. So if that resonates, I'm telling you. But anyways, I'm going to take one more sip here and we're going to get into breaking down everything you need to know about the monkeypox. I'm going to try and make this relatively quick. I won't drag on about my tea any more than I need to. All right, let's get into it. Let's have some fun. So, like I said, we've heard this story before. A new viral outbreak. All right. So if you haven't heard, and it's interesting because it doesn't seem to be the top story on any of the news stations yet. And I'm going to get into why that might be a little later. But monkeypox has been detected in the United States, in my OG state, Massachusetts, where I was born. I'm glad I'm not there. Not because of monkeypox, but just for the, I'd say, COVID insanity. They're a little over the top over there. But it's been detected United States, Australia, and a number of European countries, and experts are scrambling. They're in chaos to uncover why it is spreading in an unusual way outside of Africa. And it's interesting. I was reading about how I guess every once in a while you might get one case here, two cases there of the monkeypox. So it's not something that you've never seen before, but I guess this is the first time monkeypox has spread on a global scale. Now, what are the symptoms of monkeypox? You can expect to experience flu-like symptoms and pus-filled boils. Oh, how lovely. And you usually get better within 2 to 4 weeks. Now, if you go and read about this, it's of course the headlines. It's the fear. They tried to do the same thing with the bird flu. It didn't work. Fear. It's interesting to me, and this is shout out to my friend Mel up in Canada, because she actually just sent me something about the monkeypox that I just remembered and I would like to share. I find it very interesting that in regards to the vaccines, I don't know if this is the root cause of it. And I didn't even put this in the Substack. I'll link a source here. But the AstraZeneca vaccine, for example, it uses a chimpanzee adenovirus to carry the spike proteins, right? And so these vaccines that we've seen roll out, if you want to call them a vaccine, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a vaccine. They're already using chimp DNA and then proteins with monkeys. So is that the cause? I don't know. I like to believe there's no such thing as a coincidence, but I just wanted to preface that, we always need to be thinking about what is the root of this series of cases. I mean, boils that are very visible and unusual, if those start showing up on a large scale, that is going to be a little bit different than our common cold coronavirus, right? There's going to be people who say, look at that, it's clear, there's a monkeypox. It's not like how they just got rid of the flu and labeled it as corona, right? So we do have to think about what is the origin of this. Is it possible it's from the vaccines? Is it possible that it's a bioweapon? It's interesting because the recent report came out about how Fauci and the NIH are continuing to fund gain of function research in Wuhan specifically, right? So that hasn't stopped. So what is the origins of this? We do need to, I guess, question especially if these symptoms do start emerging. So, but what is let's ask our friend Google. This is something I included in the Substack. It's a screenshot of what the Google result is of monkeypox, and keep in mind that this will likely change if they blow this up on a large scale and make it the next pandemic. Are they going to do that? I don't know. I actually see, I don't want to make a prediction and be wrong, but I think there's a case that they might. And I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth why they may do that. I think when you start connecting the dots here and the puzzle pieces, there's a very real case we may have found our next large-scale psychological operation. But I guess even if they don't, I still intend us to have good information that you can use about the World Economic Forum and World Health Organization and what they're doing. Because even if they don't use this monkeypox, there is other diseases that are going to try and perpetuate, because they want to mass vaccinate the whole planet. They want to lock us down, and they need excuses to do that, right? So what does Google say about it? Monkeypox is a rare viral infection that does not spread easily between people. I want to stop it right there. It says does not spread easily between people. So already, the previous foundation of monkeypox, the first sentence is, oh, this is rare. Don't worry about this disease spreading to people. Scientifically, it doesn't happen very often, right? So this is not something, the scientific consensus on this has been around for a long time, has always been that it does not spread easily. So right off the bat, what do we need to fear? Why the mass hysteria? Let's continue. It is usually a mild, self-limiting illness, and most people recover within a few weeks. However, severe illness can occur in some people. I need a sip of tea after that. So our good friends at Google told us does not spread easily. It is mild. Hallelujah. There's not a pandemic for it. So we'll see how they blow this up, if they blow it up over the next several weeks. And I have suspicion that they may. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But let's get into a little bit more of the response to what's taking place right now. You know, just today, this Friday, today is May 20th, the day that it is being recorded. By the time you're listening to this, it is probably not going to be May 20th because I am recording it at 8:14 p.m. and I am in the central time zone of the United States. And there are places in the world where it is already Saturday. So, well, I guess that just goes to show that time is an illusion. But the World Health Organization did hold an emergency meeting to discuss and monitor this outbreak. And meanwhile, the United States has already ordered 1 million doses of a vaccine, over 1 million doses of a vaccine that protects against monkeypox. Can you believe that? They've rush ordered millions of doses for one case of monkeypox, possibly two. There might be another one in New York that they're testing. Oh my goodness gracious. So then this government contract is with Bavarian Nordic, and it provides 13 million freeze-dried doses of the vaccine, with the first doses being manufactured by next year. So they have to put this vaccine into production. Right away, we're already looking long-term here. We're not going to have these vaccines by next year. Is monkeypox going to be around by next year? Why do we need 13 million of them? Oh man, I don't know. This might be a question for you coincidence theorists out there who believe everything is just a coincidence. Is this a coincidence? Oh man, just to be safe, we got to get 13 million of those by next year. Not right now, not next year. But here's where the deja vu for me really starts kicking in when we start getting into this monkeypox story, because it doesn't stop there. We are just scratching the surface, ladies and gentlemen. So, in November of last year, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, which is the NTI, they partnered with the Munich Security Conference to I quote, to conduct a tabletop exercise on reducing high consequence biological threats. And what this included was a simulation of a global pandemic involving an unusual strain of the monkeypox. Where have we heard that one before? I'll refresh your brain on that in just a minute. But here's an even greater coincidence. You won't believe it. They predicted that this monkeypox pandemic would start the middle of May 2022. Today is May 20th, 2022. What was the exact date that they put in their simulation? May 15th, 2022. If you go back and you look at the news, it was this week that they first reported on this monkeypox. The monkey business is here. And what do you know? They must be practicing some serious tapping into Akashic records. I don't know what they're doing over there at the NTI and the Munich Security Conference, but my goodness gracious, they somehow knew it was going to start this week. This week specifically. Wow. Unbelievable. So I'm not going to go through their whole scenario design summary, as they call it. I link it in my Substack. I will say, they say it starts May 15th, 2022, and by June 5th, 2022, today is May 20th, so this is about 2-3 weeks' time, the monkeypox outbreak is up to 1,500 cases. There's a few deaths, international alerts and warning systems. And then by the end of the year, we're up to 70 million cases, 83 countries affected. The monkeypox is becoming vaccine resistant, national responses, international supply chain challenges. Now, this is all by the end of the year. Again, these vaccines, they're not ready yet. But I tell you, the vaccines will be manufactured by next year. Where else have we heard about the supply chain issues? Mr. World Economic Forum, Great Reset. And, I guess I'll keep going. By May of next year, they're talking 480 million cases. Biosecurity, governance, dual-use bioscience research, international pandemic preparedness, measures to strengthen national pandemic preparedness. Global differences in national responses contribute to significantly variable outcomes. So they're talking about how by the end of this, December 1st, 2023, this is the way they predict it out to. They say there's over 3.2 billion cases and 271 million deaths. Now, based on the nature of monkeypox, I don't know why they would predict 271 million deaths unless they intend to release something that is not the monkeypox upon the population, because it's not that deadly. And quite frankly, it doesn't really spread. So how are you going to get half the population in the entire world affected by this? All right, this is quite the prediction by the Nuclear Threat Initiative. I will say the Nuclear Threat Initiative is putting out an awfully threatening memo here, if you're asking me, and if we're going by what's already come true based on their dates, my golly, they are certainly they're certainly something. I'll take a sip of tea here. I'm gonna need to make another cup of this before this podcast is over. My goodness gracious, we haven't even gotten in the World Economic Forum yet, in the World Health Organization. But if you're wondering where you've heard this story before, where there was a simulation of a pandemic. Let me refresh your memory to Event 201, which is a simulation of the coronavirus pandemic which their simulation ended up nearly identical to what's taken place over the last 2 years, right? Event 201 took place October 2019. Of course, funded and hosted by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, John Hopkins, and all of these institutions. And the one I'm going to talk about next, the World Health Organization, right? So there's something sinister happening here. And I will say this, whether it's the monkeypox or not, this could just be something to distract me and distract us and get us all worked up. Monkeypox. They have other simulations planned. I saw that they're doing a smallpox simulation in the very near future. So they may just start doing all these infinite simulations, and they might start throwing out cases here, there, everywhere. And they might decide, this is it. Let's go in for the kill. It's certainly interesting timing right now with what's taking place in regards to the World Health Organization's latest power grab and how our medical freedom and ultimately national sovereignty will be handed over to the World Health Organization in the form of what they are calling international health regulations. So it's quite interesting. And I'm going to link to another Substack article. This one is not by me, but it is called the WHO, the World Health Organization, is committing a power grab. Unless we want a post-democratic world government, we need to stop them. This is by the lovely Eva Vlardinger Broke. Eva's lovely. She's great. Her work is fantastic. Eva, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. But your work's great. And this is a great article. And I'm going to link it in the episode show notes. And you guys can try and pronounce her last name. Eva V. Hey, my first 3 letters of my name is Eva. Just add an N. No wonder why I think she's got a cool name. Eva wrote a fantastic article which really outlines what's taking place with the World Health Organization. And I want to be sure to give her credit because this is really where I was able to connect a few of the dots. So really, what is happening? How do I want to explain this? Well, so let's talk about the new regulations, right? These new regulations, ultimately, if a country fails to adopt the policies that they put in place, these regulations are essentially a way for countries to respond in a time of a health crisis, right? It's a set of guidelines. So this is basically the preparedness manual because we were, quote unquote, not prepared for COVID-19, right? This is a manual for this is how we need to globally respond to the next pandemic, right? So if a country ultimately fails to adopt health regulations as outlined by the WHO, they can actually face sanctions from other countries who are within this treaty. This is a global governance policy that is going to not just be strictly followed, but strictly enforced. And let's think about for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, who is it that is the top funder of the World Health Organization? That's right. It's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Oh, our good old friend, Billy Boy. Billy. His dollars get him in a lot of places. What does Bill Gates believe in health-wise? One, he's heavily invested in mRNA vaccine technology. He called this, I think he actually called 2010s the decade of vaccines, which I guess may have been the case. He certainly went to places like Africa and India, killed a bunch of kids, and there's a whole bunch of information you can read about that. Some really interesting conspiracy theories about Bill Gates. And was he replaced by I'm not going to go too deep into that. Because if you're going, I will say this. If you go to ancestry.com, it says Bill and Melinda Gates died. What was the year? Something, I don't want to get the wrong year, so I'm not going to tell you the year, but it says they died. during a trip to like India or a village. And I don't know if that's true or not. I personally don't think so, but it's very interesting that ancestry says they died and now they look completely different. But, they've been all over the world vaccinating people. We're seeing the increase of diseases and autism, and all their vaccines are really just ways to disconnect you from your spiritual consciousness. But that's one thing they believe in. First and foremost, vaccines are the key to health. Screw exercise, which apparently, according to sources, according to corporate press, exercise is a form of white supremacy. That's right. Exercise is a form of white supremacy. I saw the article today in that fitness culture, getting them gains, baby, leads to white supremacy. It radicalizes young men. But so, that's why the World Health Organization, they don't want you exercising. White supremacy. Vaccines only. And Bill Gates has also advocated for the hard lockdowns. You've seen those videos out of Shanghai, China. If you haven't, I would encourage you to look them up. People starving, people rioting, begging to be let out of the prison of their own homes. Bill Gates believes in the hard lockdowns. So let's connect a few dots here. Bill Gates, believer in mandatory vaccination, hard lockdowns, the top funder of the World Health Organization. Countries such as the United States, 196 countries to be exact, which is basically the whole freaking world. You can't escape this. This is global. Can't escape. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Take that as you will. World Health Organization imposes policies, health regulations, mandatory vaccinations, hard lockdowns. Countries such as the United States, and as I said, 196 countries, give up their ability to govern during a health crisis, which is ultimately determined. Again, this is not going to be voted on by countries whether this is a health crisis. It's determined by the World Health Organization. If there's a health crisis, we give up our ability to come up with solutions for that said health crisis. And we are required or will face sanctions by the countries that are following it. Right? So what does that tell you? Really, what does that tell you about the time that we are in? I would take a hard look at this quote unquote treaty. I would read about, and Eva does a great job outlining this in her Substack article, about the proposals the Biden administration has put forth about allowing these quote unquote international health regulations, and how the general director of the World Health Organization, Tedros, I think that's how you pronounce his name, how he's in China's pocket. If you want to know the future of the West, China today, the West tomorrow. That's always been the goal. Ultimately, David Icke explains this best. We really have already lived under a pseudo one world government. And what this is doing, this World Health Organization treaty, is it's making that more of a formality, right? It's making that it's strengthening those ties. This is think of like a spider web. This is a vast interconnected web of previously unseen forces, right? And ultimately, what's their goal? Global domination, global governance. And we see the system that they have in place in China at the moment. That is what they want here. They don't care about your freedom of speech. They don't care about any of those things that we are seeing being argued about by our politicians. These things aren't talked about. What politicians have you heard talking about the World Health Organization treaty? I actually recently outlined in my Project Bluebeam uh, article on Substack, which I will have to, I guess, link in the show notes because I've mentioned it a few times now. The 9 tools of implementation of the New World Order. Really, in the New World Order, of course, is this global system. That word New World Order, I think, it's almost like, I don't know. It still has power, but in a way it's been overused and it's been really integrated into pop culture. So I think it loses this meaning. So if anything, we'll just say one world government and global totalitarianism. But this is how they intend to do it. And again, this is Sergei Monast. He outlined this, and I highly encourage you guys to read about Project Bluebeam. It's really important, everything that he's outlined. And he, of course, mysteriously died. Who would have thought? He mysteriously died as he was trying to expose this to the public. And I do a podcast on this where I read his entire, I guess, template or his manifesto. I don't know what you want to call it. His document. So go back, scroll back far. I'll just put it in the episode show notes again. Project Bluebeam. If you want to hear me read through his whole document, I would recommend it. But let me outline the 9 stages or how this global web plans to implement this world government. After I take a sip of tea, I'm almost out of my dandelion tea. I need a bigger cup. Man, I'm feeling rowdy on this Friday night. Let me tell you. I guess when the circus is in town, I like to ride the elephants. I like to throw peanuts. I don't know. The circus is here, so I'm feeling riled up. Anyways, here's how the implementation of this New World Order goes. 1, you need an international army. 2, you need an international police force. Right off the bat, who comes to mind when you think of this? Those 2. It's the United Nations. The United Nations is a front for global governance, and he mentions them. But the United Nations is deeply, deeply embedded and intertwined with the World Health Organization. So as we continue to outsource our sovereignty, I really do predict over the next few years, we will see more policies where we give more power to the United Nations, to NATO, to these different, again, the World Health Organization, World Economic Forum. I guarantee you we're going to see more of that take place. And you'll see things like an international army, international police force. United Nations already has both of those. And they have already been spotted all over the world. They already have headquarters in the United States. Like, they're here. Like, there's actually a really funny video of a United Nations police car. I think it is. And there's a United Nations employee having sex in the back seat or something. It's pretty funny. But anyways, that's kind of off topic. But it just goes to show you they're making their presence felt. They're here. So number 3, a World Bank for the economy. And of course, we already have the Federal Reserve. We already have the World Bank, International Monetary Fund. We're already under a one world currency global system, just about. And that's only going to become more strengthened as we continue into the Great Reset. Of course, we're seeing the deliberate crashing of fiat currency right now. Inflation is through the roof. Really, the prices of things are not going up. Value of money is just going down. It's as simple as that. So number 4, a world government under the United Nations, which is exactly what I said. Number 5, a world conservatory bank for wilderness preservation around the world. That means all quote unquote green movements will be melded into the new international bank or disappear altogether. Now that's a big key. The world conservatory, wilderness preservation. Right? If you were to look on a map, I believe it's through United Nations, actually. A perfect example is a map of the United States, and they have outlined the designated zones where people will live. And most of the country is completely empty. Like, you can't go to most of the country, right? So you have the creation of these smart cities, and you get connected to the smart grid Why do you think they're putting up all the 5G towers all over the place? All of the street lights, if you notice the new street lights, they have a little camera on top, and inside that street light, there's videos of people taking apart these street lights. There's little 5G things in it, right? So what is 5G? It's a connection to the smart grid. That's why it can't travel at longer distances. It's a creation of this electric grid that you become a part of, and there's no exiting it. You can't escape the grid, right? And they even Sergey Manas talks about this in his what he released to the public. They're already putting technology and chipping animals out in public, so you can't go into the forest, you can't go escape outside into these wilderness prevention zones, whatever it may be. You can't, right? They're going to track you down. This is a global grid, so these people are psychopathic. I'm telling you, they're disconnecting you from the root of who you are, and that is nature. They want you living within the human zoo. And the human zoo, there's a book, Desmond Morris, and Paul Chek referenced this. I love that he referenced this because this is a great book. As soon as he said it, I lit up inside. I'm like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. The Human Zoo, Desmond Morris. I might even have the copy of it literally sitting on the table over here. I'm not going to be able to find it while I'm talking, at least. But I guess that shows you how messy things are around me. They're not that bad, I promise you. But you know, when you get working, you place things all over. You're using their, y'all know how it is. The Human Zoo, Desmond Morris, and basically, cities are designed in the way you see a tiger in the zoo. We are no different than that tiger in the zoo, than the monkey in the cage when we are living in the confines of a city, right? So I myself, I can't go back to those cities. I can't do it. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried again. It ain't happening. I'm sorry. I got to be in nature. I need the sun hit me daily. And I swear, I'm like a plant with how much I photosynthesize nowadays. But they're taking us out of nature. So number 6, a world religion where all church doctrines will be destroyed at the roots to be replaced by the new world religion of the age of Aquarius. Now, this is interesting because we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and I think that there's significant truth in the astrological realm and the age of Aquarius, right? So it's fascinating. And I've talked about this in so many podcasts in the past. So if you've listened before, you know what I'm talking about. But what these people do to get people on board is they take spiritual truths and they manipulate them and they invert them and they sell you half truths to get you on board, right? So much of the New Age movement, like when I first started looking at it, I thought it was kind of attractive, but it avoids the shadow work. The phrase "you know nothing" and you know nothing. Well, I guess if you're going along with this stuff, you may know nothing. You probably do know nothing if you're just watching the TV. It's like what I talked about with Travis Corcoran, right? Just knowledge. You're in the knowledge realm, right? No reason, no wisdom, just knowledge. But you will own nothing and be happy. That takes a fundamental spiritual truth of non-attachment to material possessions and then inverting it to have a dictatorial system of you're not going to own anything and you're going to be happy about it. So it's like, yeah, I don't own anything. I don't need anything to be happy. Yeah. That's not how it works. It takes out the deeper purpose and the deeper meaning. Like, yeah, you can be happy without possessions, but are you going to be happy under a one world government where you can't leave your house, where you're living in the metaverse, where you're pumped with a new vaccine every week and you don't have real friends, you can't eat real food, you're eating bugs, you're living in a pod, you can't go into nature, you don't know what nature is, really you're probably going to live till like 40 because you're so unhealthy and starved and dying and have no real communication or purpose. That's what they want, right? So it's a great culling of the population, I guess you could say. Anyways, half truths. Be very weary. Use your discernment. Feel the wholeness within yourself. The recognition that you are God, guru, self, all one and the same thing. And it's funny because I was going to do a podcast about this the God guru self. And I might talk about this a little bit in this podcast because I wanted to do a podcast on this, but then all the monkeypox circus showed up, and it's like, well, I got to attend the circus and eat my peanuts and eat my bread. Breads and circuses, they entertain, you got to get into them once in a while. So God guru self, remember that, all one and the same, baby. And if you want a great understanding of God, tune into the podcast I did with Paul Check that's coming out on Monday. I'm telling you, he gave the best examples of how to understand God that I've ever heard in my life. That was like, I felt like I was sitting with God. And the paradox of it is I was, because he's God and I'm God and we're all God. So yeah, be wary of half-truths. Number 7, the world's 7 races classification for all human slaves who will fulfill predetermined work tasks, whether they agree with it or not. So that's basically, it's kind of like a caste system in a way. It's like, you're doing this, you're doing that, yada, yada. And in the way that we're seeing the mind control take place, it says whether they agree with it or not, you're going to be born into a way to where you are agreeing with it. Like there's no even thought to not agree, right? They take control of your mind and they program you in such a way that there's no even rebel. What's rebelling, right? Read 1984. Perfectly outlines how they use fear and terror to program the mind. So people, they don't even understand. You can't rebel. What does that even mean? It might be down deep in that subconscious, that you want to rebel and you hate this. Well, you don't know how to express that. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. The complete elimination of spirit and creative expression, right? Number 8, the world concentration headquarters at the United Nations for those who will not accept the new system. This is the FEMA camps, baby. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that we're going to be FEMA camp roommates. I'm telling you, because I ain't going along with this. My goodness. Although realistically, I ain't going to no camp. You ain't taking me to prisoner. I got that warrior spirit going lately. I've been training, doing some like Muay Thai training. Ever since I talked with Kevin Ross, all I can think about is martial arts. I'm telling you, when I go into the gym, all I want to do is throw like roundhouse kicks. So, Kevin, if you listen to this, thanks. I don't know what kind of bug you put in me, but all I want to do is throw roundhouse kicks. So, but it's invoking that warrior spirit within me. So I ain't being taken to no FEMA camp. Number 9, world agriculture and food supply control, which will control food and vitamin supplies around the world. And look at, we've already seen that come to fruition, right? There's already a global food supply chain. That's why it's so important to reconnect with your local farmers, grow food if you can. Talked about this before. It's interesting because if you were to go to and I've talked about this on the podcast many times, again, so if you're a regular listener, you already know this. Go to the World Economic Forum's website, go and see what they have to say about agriculture. They plan on using GMOs. They want this global system, and they claim it's going to feed everybody and give everybody proper nutrition when there's so much evidence. There are hundreds of books on this, hundreds of research papers to show that GMOs are crap. And the most efficient way to feed the planet is to actually put the power back into the hands of local communities, right? Stop buying into the system. And really, any time you are consenting to this and you make a choice to buy into this system, you're a co-conspirator. If we're being blunt, right? I've stopped and it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's like, are we really like co-conspirators if we're like doing things out of convenience and comfort? In a way, yeah, because that's what they want. Like, are we going to acquiesce to this? That's the only reason they're able to do it in the first place, because we acquiesced with it every step of the way. This has been over 100 years in the making. Sergei Manost released that Project Bluebeam thing in the 90s. The 90s is like 30 years ago, believe it or not, which is crazy. So this is a long time in the making. Great Reset it's coming, baby. Let me tell you. Don't think that we're getting off easy from this. So be very, very, very wary, because the World Health Organization, this treaty, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't go into place. Like there are individuals like myself and others, and you even have people like Russell Brand speaking up about it. You have some politicians speaking up about it. I think I saw something from Maxime Bernier. I've seen politicians speaking about it, but what is going to stop it from going into place? In the United States, for example, Democrats, Republicans, two wings of the same bird. They ain't stopping it. Look at all the money they're giving to Ukraine for a distraction war while people are starving and the inflation is crazy and people can't afford gas. I thought gas prices were high here, and they're only $4.09. You're listening to this and you hear that, you're probably like, my God, Evan, that's cheap. It might be compared to other parts of the country. I'm telling you. Yeah, these people don't care about you. None of them care about you. None of them. Who's coming to save you? Nobody. Nobody's coming to save you. And maybe that's a hard pill to swallow. It might be. But here's the thing. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to cower in fear and lay down your sword and cry and run to mom and dad and say, protect me? No, that's exactly what they want. It doesn't matter if you're afraid of a virus, of what you see on the news, or if you're afraid of a vaccine and the World Health Organization and the UN police force. If you're afraid, you're afraid, and you're acting out of fear. And that's not what we need right now. We need to act out of love, truth, empowerment, conscious awareness of all our decisions and the karmic effect that all those decisions have, right? With the inevitability of this treaty, it's inevitable that things are going to get crazier, right? They're going to throw more pandemic psyops at you, whether it's the monkeypox or whether it's smallpox, whatever it is, or they make up some new XYZ variant that comes out of left field. I don't know. Who knows what these people are going to do, but you have to stay grounded. Don't be afraid. Stop running away. Stop running away from yourself, which is the foundation of this system and what we are all indoctrinated in from the very beginning in the education systems, to run away from ourselves, to run away from spirit, right? We have to starve these motherfuckers out of existence through non-compliance and mass civil disobedience. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And we do that through every action, every decision. And we do it empowered, baby. We hold hands with one another and we make change. And we bring change through peace, through love, through truth. We all have the ability to change the world. We just got to be crazy enough to believe we can actually do it. So on top of all this going on, and just to throw another thing at you, the World Economic Forum, their summit, they're meeting in Davos. Oh, good old Davos, Switzerland. And their plan is to restore trust in global institutions amid the Great Reset push. And this is taking place May 22nd through the May 26th. And I will tell you, May 22nd through May 26th, I think it's set to be the most peaceful few days in the world's history, because all of the terrorists from around the world, they're all going into the same place at the same time, Davos, Switzerland. And they're going to be there for a few days. All the terrorists will be there. So therefore, we're all right for a few days. All the terrorists are gone. So they're having their annual summit. They're going to talk about further instituting these Great Reset policies. In particular, they're going to be talking about, I believe, cybersecurity. That's a big thing that's going to be coming up. Of course, the climate action, pandemic recovery, and one other big thing, global cooperation. Now, what does global cooperation sound like to you? To me, it sounds like global compliance. That's exactly what they're pushing for. So again, everybody, I'm telling you, go to the World Economic Forum's website, and I want to hear from you directly. Send me an email, evanmcdermott@protonmail.com. If you forget it, go to my website, evanmcdermott.org, which is in the episode description. Click the little mail tab. When you go to the World Economic Forum's website and you read their initiatives, there is an area in there that you are an expert of. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's agriculture. Maybe it's cybersecurity. Maybe it's education. Maybe it's race. I don't know. But you can disprove some of their theories. You need to go and understand what these people are trying to do if you actually want to stop them from doing it. It's as simple as that. You need to look at the root of these terrorists and their virus. And when I say the virus, I'm talking about the mind virus and their policies, so you can stop it. If you have the solution to just one piece of this puzzle, it will help put the puzzle together. We're all coming at this puzzle. We got a grand puzzle in front of us. This little baby must be 1,000,000 pieces, right? And we're all scrambling, putting a piece here, a piece there. Oh, I found one. Interlink it here, there. Do what you can. Don't feel like you got to run around with a chicken with your head cut off, but find those connections. Use your background. Use your intuition. See where the great mystery leads you in each moment. And I'm telling you, if you go on to their website and you see something that stands out, reach out to me about it and work on a podcast about it. Because we need to talk about these things. I said that on another podcast and nobody reached out to me. So I'm calling it again, calling for action. Look at all of their mission statements and pick them apart, tear them to shreds. I've tried doing it. I've looked at a few of them and I can already tell you, they're full of crap. It's like what I said earlier with the agricultural system. Like if anybody wants to do a whole podcast on the food supply because you know about local farming, regenerative practices, and how the WEF is full of crap, that's one example. Tell me. Let's collab. Let's get the info out there so people can be empowered and learn and share. Even if it's not with me, share the information you know with the people in your community and tell them about, hey, this is what I'm seeing on the global scale and this is what they're pushing, but I think this is a better idea. And start proposing that in your local community. It's going to be a true grassroots, I would say, campaign to break the cycle of globalization, right? We have to re-empower local communities. And to empower local communities, we need to have empowered individuals. It's as simple as that. So I want to leave you with this Martin Luther King Jr. quote. And it said this: an individual who breaks the law that conscience tells him is unjust and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice is in reality expressing the highest respect for the law. It's all about noncompliance. Do not obey simply because it's for the quote unquote greater good or it's the quote unquote law. You got to find your own moral foundation in these times. As the World Health Organization, as they're going to throw more psyops at you, as Billy Gates and his little money laundering operation with the World Health Organization and his philanthropy, as they throw vaccines at your neck, you got to be ready to defend yourself against them. What does that look like? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. Stand empowered in your warrior and lover archetype and intertwine those energies, right? Don't be afraid of the consequences of expressing your truth, because if you don't express the truth or do what's right because you're afraid of the consequences, that means even just to consider it means you're considering not doing what's right. So do it. Do what you got to do. Heart lead, brain follow. The tower of the foundation of what we have been living under, it may be coming and crashing down, but even the word Armageddon, when you look at the origin of it, it don't mean chaos, death, up in flames, zombie apocalypse. Although zombies, sorry, I know some of you think that would be cool. Armageddon means new beginnings. So this is an Armageddon. We got a new beginning on the horizon. We just got to commit to it and create it. What's it going to look like? I don't know, but I can certainly feel it. It's going to be grounded in love, authenticity, and truth, and community, the recognition of who we are on a deeper level, expressions of infinite creation, God, grace, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call that, that energy. One with nature, one with all. Aho, great spirit. We are going to do it, baby. We're going to do it. I feel it. I feel the radiance. So let me know what your thoughts are on the monkeypox situation, whether you want to go on my Substack and comment, whatever it is, you want to send me a message. I don't know. You feeling empowered, drained? What do you feel is the best solution moving forward? I want to hear your solutions. No more fear. The time to stand in truth is now. Let's do it. Let's be empowered. It's going to wrap up this episode. If you're a fan of the show, be sure to subscribe. Like I said, we got episode 200 coming in the next one. Paul Check. You don't want to miss that one. Got some other, and it's not just Paul Check coming. I say that because I'm excited about Paul Check, because I love Paul Check, because that dude's awesome and it was an awesome conversation. But there's even more great conversations coming soon. So be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss them. Head on over to mcdermott.substack.com. It's in the episode show notes. Seriously, go subscribe. It's free to subscribe. You can pay if you would like. You certainly don't have to. But it does support the work. It does support the podcast, everything that I'm doing. So I appreciate that. Head on over to mcdermott.org. You want to work with me one-on-one? I'm always cool with that. We'll figure out what's working for you, what you need, whether it's masculinity coaching, homeschooling, whatever it may be. I'm down. Let's make it happen. And leave us a little 5-star rating if you like the show, at least. If you don't like the show, well, I guess you're entitled to leave a 1-star rating. I wouldn't encourage it, but hey, it probably helps the algorithm either way, right? So leave your rating, drop a comment, say hello, reach out. This is episode 199. 1 plus 9 plus 9 equals 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. Completion, baby. Completion. We are going to make it. If you made it this far, we're going to make it. Have faith, stay grounded in love, truth, courageousness. And let's keep moving forward. I'll see you all next time.